Alrighty, so today I am going to continue with part 2 of the review for match week number 23. After yesterday, I looked at the first 7 games as part 1 of the review in match week number 23. And like I said before, I'm doing the review this week, kind of similar to what I did in 2019 and also in the COVID shortened season of 2020, where, I split the review into 2 parts in terms of all these games that's happening on the weekends. And that in this review, I was supposed to look at the last 6 games of match week number 23, but then for the first time ever that I did reviews on the channel, we actually had one game that didn't finish, and it was the game between Charlotte versus Columbus. But despite the fact that that game didn't finish, I will still talk about what actually happened in that game, despite the fact that that game basically was called off after just 17 minutes because of lightning. But first, we start off with the first game, which is New England versus Toronto, and this was the third 0-0 draw that we had this week. And again, like what I said in part 1, in terms of this week action, it was pretty much feast or famine in terms of goals scored. I mean, there's been games where there were a lot of goals that was scored. I talked about the 4-4 draw that we saw twice in part 1 of the review. Well, in this one, no, we didn't see those kind of 4-4 draw, but we once again saw a 0-0 draw in this one against the Revs and TFC, though this game was kind of similar to the one between Atlanta versus Chicago, where it wasn't really the most boring 0-0 draw that you've seen this season, and that there was definitely chances for both of these teams to get the opening goal, but the story of these kind of game where both teams had chances to score a goal, but they're unable to do so, that pretty much just put down in terms of both teams just couldn't find their finishing in this one. Though early on, 4 minutes in, Jimenez did head it wide from close range before Heel put a one-hopper right to Bono. Then Bono denied by from long range, and again, I thought there was a couple of half chances for both of these teams, but no breakthrough for either of these teams up to that point. Nelson then curled one just wide from close range before on the other end, Polster had a long-range shot that was flash wide. Then Petrovic with denied Insigne in the near post. I thought both Insigne and Benedeschi definitely had another good game, though. You can definitely say that, while they had a good game in this one, it was not as spectacular as what we saw in the debut. Like, that debut that both of these Italian has was exactly what TFC was dreaming about, but unfortunately, neither of those guys were able to get on the goal scoring department. A lot of that has to do with Georgi Petrovic continue to prove that, yeah, he is definitely the right replacement for Matt Turner. But then on the other end, Polster did curl it just wide from 23 yards out, as Polster very active early in this one, but we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, Benedeschi did came the closest for either of these sides to score, but he struck the post from long range. I mean, he absolutely hammered that one, and I'm kind of surprised the fact that the goal post didn't fall off there, because that was just absolutely rightful. You can definitely heard the whole smack when that ball was hit there. But in the 71st minute, Petrovic did deny Insigne from long range before New England decided to bring on their debut and a long-awaited player to basically maybe be the next Adam Buxaw, as Baroni came in, and he almost scored his first just a couple of minutes coming off the bench, but he puts that one high. And then this is where we get to controversy, as in the 76th minute, a penalty was given to Toronto as VAR deemed that Polster brought down Kerr in the box. Now, not only the fact that was exactly not what happened, but it looked like, when you also look on the VAR replay, it looked like it was Kerr the one that kicked Polster, rather than Polster actually foul Kerr into the box. In fact, it was more like Kerr the one that actually kicked Polster down in the box in the first place. And if that is the case, which when you look on the replay, that definitely was the case, that should have been a foul against Toronto rather than a foul against New England, and a penalty that was given. And despite the fact that they did go to VAR to see this, VAR decided to not change that. And again, I'm not going to get into the discussion about how this is why VAR or sometimes is just not great in this league, and that how pro continue to screw up calls game in and game out. But this is just a definition of example of inconsistency of VAR use in MLS. Now, fortunately, this controversial call did not cost the refs in this one, because in the 78th minute, Petrovic was able to deny Insigne from the spot. I mean, it wasn't a bad penalty, but Petrovic just gets the right way, and he basically stonewalled Lorenzo Insigne from the spot. But at the same time, ball don't lie. I mean, ball absolutely don't lie in terms of that play. You knew that with that controversial penalty, there was a case that maybe this one wasn't going to be converted, and that New England was going to have the MLS God smiling upon them, or maybe in some way the MLS God was going to get them some justice, and definitely justice was made in this one, and this game remained at 0-0. But then in the 83rd minute, Kerr actually had a shot that was on the doorstep of goal, but his shot was deflected wide, and I thought TFC was really starting to push for the late winner, trying to steal all 3 points away from New England in this one. But just as I said that, Veroni had another opportunity to score a goal on his debut, and it would have been definitely a great goal to score, not only on your debut but also the winner of the goal. But unfortunately, he puts that one wide after just a world-class through ball there from Carlos Hill. But yeah, in the end, it ends scoreless in this one, as the shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 14 that TFC had. But the story of this game of reason why neither of these teams were able to put the ball into the back of net is the shots on goal. Only 3 shots on goal compared to 2 that New England has. 8 shots off target compared to 6 that New England has. 3 shots that was blocked compared to 5 that New England has. And possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that TFC has in this game. And I'm basically going to just carbon copy what I said in that game between the Fire versus Atlanta yesterday, where this was just a game where neither of these team aren't able to find their finishing, and also both of these teams had a chance. Well, at least in New England cases, they had a chance to once again go above the red line, knowing how some of the result goes along, and they once again missed that opportunity, as that's been really kind of the story, at least in these last couple of games, where it's just so close for them to have a chance to go above the red line, but they just cannot do it because of dropping more points at home. But for TFC, they'll be disappointed too, because they definitely had some big opportunity, and while they were definitely gifted by that penalty, you gotta say that if you're a TFC fan, you would have definitely bet your money that Insigne would put that one in. And again, it wasn't a bad penalty, but it was just Petrovic, and also the MLS soccer gods decided that justice has to make in terms of a potential blown VAR call that happened just a couple of minutes ago. But that being said, moving on in terms of the next match is Sporting KC versus Austin FC, and Austin might have just broke the record in terms of the most offside goal scored in this one, because they not just score one offside goal in this game, they score 4 offside goal in this game, and if any of those weren't actually being called offside, the scoreline would have been maybe different. Like maybe it would be at least 3-4 or even 5-0 in favor of Austin in this one. And despite the fact that Sporting KC was just being bailed out by the flag time again, they weren't able to take advantage of it. And as kind of expected in this game, we knew that they were going to be overmatched by the talent of Austin FC. And early on, it definitely shown that, because just 6 minutes in, Jerussi almost gave Austin the 1-0 lead, but he fires one just wide from long range. And again, unsurprisingly, Austin was on the front foot. But Sporting KC did have a chance in the 14th minute, as Stuver was able to deny Johnny's. But he actually allowed a juicy rebound, and Sporting KC had a chance to capitalize on a juicy rebound that Stuver allowed. But unfortunately, they weren't able to do so, and it looked like they were made to be punished in the 16th minute when Urruti basically puts it into the upper 90. But the problem is the goal was disallowed for offside, and of the 4 offside goal that was disallowed, every one of them I think it was the correct call, because in this one you can definitely see Urruti drifted in an offside position, and then when he tried to go back from an onside position, the ball was already play, and rightfully so, this goal was disallowed. And then 2 minutes later, Fagundes would put it into the back net, but the problem is this goal was also disallowed for offside, and I believe this is the one where when the ball was coming in, it touched 2 Austin players, including Fagundes, and both of those players was actually in an offside position. So again, rightfully called to be disallowed for offside. And then just 5 minutes later, to complete the hat trick, Finley would put the ball into the back, and then only to once again see the flag comes up, and this time, Finley was the one that was caught in offside position, but this one was probably the closest out of the 3. I mean, this was there could be some cases that maybe he just stayed onside, but in the end, when you look on the replay, it looked like he just were an inch or well, not an inch, but more like a foot or two offside there. But yeah, Austin, they might have just broke the record of having that many disallowed goal by offside in such a short period. Like the fact that they could complete a hat trick of offside goal in just a span of 7 minutes, that is something that I don't think I've ever seen in an MLS game. I mean, I have seen an MLS game where there's been 3 disallowed goal. I think there was one a couple of years ago. I think there was a game that NYCFC played where they had 3 goals disallowed. Or actually, no, not a couple of years. It was earlier this year. Didn't NYCFC had like 3 goals disallowed against New England? I might be completely wrong though. But again, the point is that Austin was definitely cursed by the offside flag early in this one. But in the 29th minute, a goal that did try to heads it in for Sporting KC, but that one was clear off the line. But then in the 43rd minute, Sporting KC would go down to 10 men as Duke would actually get his second yellow card. And this has been the problem for Cameron Duke and his young career with Sporting KC. As talented as he is for this team, he sometimes makes some very boneheaded decision. And I feel like this is the second time that he has made some boneheaded decision that got himself sent off, where he basically pulled the jersey of one the Austin player and pull him back. And when you do that, that's an automatic yellow card. And to make things worse, Duke was already on a yellow card, so yeah, you just simply cannot do that and expect not to get a second yellow for that. But yeah, Austin were up a man for the last 45 minutes as Sporting KC were down a man for the remaining of that, and Austin take no time to take advantage of it, as Alex Rink, the captain, would score from Gallagher to give Austin a 1-0 lead. But in many ways, this was an absolute gift from Postgame. I mean, Postgame basically had a Dane Sinclair moment there, or you could say maybe in a nicer way, he kind of had a Rob Greep moment here, where Ring basically put a weak shot that Postgame simply just dropped it. Like, it just went through his wickets and into the back of the net. And yeah, that's definitely one that John Postgame would not want to remember and want to forget for a very long time. But yeah, Austin were leading 1-0, and also I think that goal also kind of just sums up Sporting KC this season. I mean, not only they have no luck this season, it's just been a disaster after disaster that they've been suffering throughout this year. So in the second half, as they down 1-0, now to Sporting KC credit, they did respond. Tommy did put a one-hopper right to Stuver before a penalty was given to Sporting KC after VAR deemed that Felipe handballed that one in the box. But unfortunately, Sporting KC weren't able to take advantage, as Showery had hit his penalty that was stayed by Stuver. I mean, it wasn't really the best penalty from Daniel Showery, but definitely a great save from Stuver to deny Sporting KC a chance to tie the game up. And then Stuver tips over a Tommy cross over the bar, and this was actually from the corner, so this was actually an Olympico that Eric Tommy was trying to go, but that one was tipped over the bar. And again, you got to give credit. Sporting KC were fighting in this game, and that they looked like they were trying to continue the narrative of what we've seen this season, where for whatever reason, whenever a team that goes down to 10 men, they always tends to be the better side. And it seems like that was the case again, where again, if you just tune into the game, you would have not guessed that Austin were a man up with the way that Sporting KC were fighting back to get the equalizer. But in the 69th minute, it looked like a backbreaker happened, as Fagundes would put the ball into the back of net to make it 2-0. Or did he? Because VAR would then look to see whether or not if there was an offside, and there was. So 4th time in this game, Austin, of course, would disallow a goal because of offside. And again, I think that might be a new record, or maybe at least tie with the record, because I really don't remember any game I've seen, not only in MLS, but any soccer game I've seen where 4 goals would disallowed because of offside, especially with those one that was put in the back of the net and then the flag basically immediately raised. But I also wrote Sporting KC was just getting multiple lifeline. Like the fact that they were only down 1-0 at that point, despite the fact that they've already had 5 goals that was put into the back net and 4 of them was disallowed by offside. They must be counting the fact that this might be one of those games where they can get lucky and maybe salvage a draw. No. In the 90th minute, Jerussi basically put the dagger in Sporting KC hope as he scored here from Fagundes to make it 2-0 in favor of Austin, and that would be the final score of this game. As the shots in this one, 11 shots compared to 9 that Austin has, 3 shots on goal compared to 4 that Sporting KC had. Both teams had 4 shots off target, 3 shots that was blocked compared to 2 that Austin has, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that Sporting KC has in this game. And for Austin, their 8th win this season on the road, which is the most in MLS, and it was kind of expected with the way that, like I said, for Sporting KC, it's been a miserable season for them. And I will give them credit that at least they showed some heart in the second half and did show some fight back, but ultimately you knew that Austin was going to be coming out with the win, and they did exactly that, and now they're close within 5 points of LAFC for that top spot in the West. But that being said, moving on into the next game, we got FC Dallas versus the LA Galaxy in a game that I've said that this was the desperation derby, and in the end, Dallas was able to win the desperation derby and finally end that long winless run that they had at home, as they were able to win 1-0 in this game against the Galaxy. And really, that goal that they scored came very early, as in the 9th minute, or actually before the goal that they scored in the 9th minute, Chicharito actually had a free header, but he missed that one high, and that's been kind of sums up the run of form that Chicharito has had in the last couple of games, where he has started to once again go back to ice cold and started to kind of look like the Chicharito of 2020, where he just could not put the ball into the back net and he was just simply cursed. And again, that miss would come back to haunt the Galaxy, because in the 9th minute, Franco Jara would score from Farfan and Martinez to give FC Dallas a 1-0 lead. So for the second time this season, Dallas, of course, we saw in the road game, they strike quickly to go up 3-0, and it looked like they were on that point to do so, with them getting a goal very early in this one. Though Chicharito tried to respond, but was denied by Paz in the front post. And again, the Galaxy, I thought they were starting to get some momentum and was pushing for the equalizer, but before I had a chance to finish that, Martinez actually struck the post on an overhead kick, and yeah, if he would have scored that one, that would have definitely joined a long list of goal of the week contention, which, by the way, I don't want to be the one that, of course, will be voting for goal of the week, because there's a lot of goal of the week contention in terms of so many great free kicks goals that were scored throughout this match week number 23. But we do head to halftime with Dallas holding on to a 1-0 lead. Now in the second half, once again, the Galaxy were pressing for the equalizer, and the attack, I thought, was mostly just kind of feed the ball to Chicharito, which is kind of an interesting thing kind of tactics, but at the same time, it's also a tactics that they used to do, which is just feed the ball to Chicharito, and eventually he would put one into the back net. Though in the 50th minute, Cabral did fire one straight to Paz before Bond did deny Velasco from close range, and then Bond would deny Areola from close in the 60th minute. Then Velasco struck the post as the flag went up, so even if that went in, it wouldn't have counted. And there was no doubt that Dallas was getting that momentum back, and they were trying to kill this game off with a second goal. But then a penalty was given to the Galaxy after Farfan brought down Chicharito in the box. But in the 65th minute, Paz was able to come up with a big save to deny Joveljic in the box. I mean, yeah, this was not a great week for players that is looking to convert a penalty, because we saw a missed penalty here, a missed penalty here, and now we saw a missed penalty in this game too. But in the 72nd minute, Velasco did put one just wide before Paz would once again deny Chicharito, but it wouldn't have counted even if Chicharito put that one in, because the flag went up. But you just kind of had a sense that next goal was definitely up for grabs. Like, both of these teams was trying to push for that next goal, and especially when you have a one-goal game down the stretch, you know that next goal is going to be big and will really tell the narrative of this game. Tomasi tried to get that next goal, but he was denied by Bond in the near post. And as the time winds down, you can definitely see the Galaxy was pushing pushing more man forward in search for the equalizer. Joveljic, who has really been the guy that has been the late game show for the Galaxy this season, he tried to add to that collective item, but he struck one right to Paz. But in the first minute of stoppage time, Redic had a chance to put this one away as he went through on goal, but he wasn't able to put the dagger. In fact, he actually lost control of the ball, and yeah, I mean, Dallas had a big opportunity to get that second goal, but thankfully, unlike what we see in this week, where multiple times when teams holding on to 1-0 lead in the game and they blew it, and we will see that at least in these next two games that I'm about to talk about. Fortunately for Dallas, they were able to hold on to win 1-0 in this one against the Galaxy. And the shots in this one, 15 shots compared to 10 that the Galaxy had, 7 shots on goal compared to 3 that the Galaxy had, 6 shots off target compared to 5 that the Galaxy had. Both teams had 2 shots that was blocked, and possession-wise, 37% possession compared to 63% possession that the Galaxy has in this game. And with this loss, for the first time this season, the Galaxy is actually below the red line. Although you knew it was coming with the way that, for these past couple of weeks and with the way how they've been playing, going all the way back to May, you knew that they were eventually going to drop below the red line. And even though they do have a game in hand, and technically they do win that game in hand, they will get themselves back above the red line. I just don't see it. Like, this team is just in a very bad funk in these last couple of months, and kind of reminiscent to what we saw in the second half of the season last year. But for Dallas, what a win this is. And all of a sudden, they have got themselves back up to 4th in the Western Conference. Again, it doesn't take much to get yourself all the way up to as high as 3rd place, because the standings between 3rd all the way down to 9th place is only separated by 5 points right now in the West. Or at least that was the case heading into this week. I think it might have been different because I haven't checked the standings after all of these teams, of course, play in match week number 23. But that being said, moving on into the next match is the Quakes versus RSL. And I know there have been times where I haven't been called out by being negative with the Quakes, and that I also know that there's been comments that have said that I've become a very negative Quakes fan, and I've been also a very pessimistic Quakes fan when I talk about this team. And, there's times where I do feel like maybe I'm a little bit too harsh with the Quakes, but this season is definitely not one of them. I mean, this season, it's just, like, at least in these last couple of games, it's just been disaster after game, and it looked like it's the Quakes of the old, where they just become a bottom feeder. And in this game against RSL, they had a chance to finally get that much-needed win to maybe keep that slim playoff hope alive, and nope, that is not going to happen. And once again, as the case this season, the defense once again let down this team. But in the first half, just 11 minutes into this game, a penalty was given to the Quakes after VAR deemed that Glad actually handballed that one in the box, which I think that was the correct call. And the Quakes were able to take advantage of that, as Espinoza was able to bury that penalty. And actually, I don't know why I wrote Espinoza and RSL name next to it. That was kind of weird there. Let me just see if I can. I actually don't have a pen right now to fix it. So just pretend that's a PK that Espinoza, of course, were able to put away, and he's able to do something that as I mentioned in the previous 3 games that each of these teams weren't able to do, which is able to slots it home from the spot. But yeah, that gives the Quakes a 1-0 lead, though that lead would be short-lived, because in the 22nd minute, Lofferson would score to tie the game up at 1 apiece from Brody. And I'm not sure if that is the first goal that Jasper Lofferson has scored for RSL, because I do think I remember he did score a goal maybe in that game against New England. But other than that, if this is his first goal, yeah, certainly congratulate him scoring his first career MLS goal. But also, you can also thank the fact that the Quakes' transitional defending was non-existent in that one. Like, the fact that they were basically getting caught out on the break, like what I've seen many times during the day of Almeida, and just no defense whatsoever on the transitional defense. Yeah, I mean, that just sums up in terms of how the Quakes have been defending this season. And that play also kind of, well, at least as I will talk about a little bit later on of the second goal that they concede, it pretty much just sums up how the Quakes have the worst defense in the league. And that's not even exaggeration when you look at the stats and how they once again have conceded pretty much almost 2 goals every single game so far this season. Though in the 30th minute, Savarino did try to double that lead, or actually, no, not double the lead, but actually go for the lead there. The game was actually tied at 1 apiece. I don't know why I wrote double the lead, but he was denied by Marcinkowski. And again, the Quakes were back into their lazy defensive mode. There was no closing down whatsoever whenever RSL had a chance to shoot from long range. And they were leaving the most dangerous attack for RSL wide open in the box. I can't tell you how many times I saw Jefferson Savarino wide open in the box. And when you leave him wide open like that, yeah, you're basically asking to concede a goal. And again, there was a couple of times where the Quakes were very lucky the fact that Savarino wasn't able to punish them because of leaving him so much space to work with, or at least being wide open in the box when the ball comes in. But in the 33rd minute, Lopez did hit one just wide from close range before Lopez also missed just wide from long range in the 41st minute as the Quakes were looking to try to get the lead back before halftime. But we do head to halftime with the score tied up at 1 apiece. Though in the second half, it looked like that tie-up score wouldn't last long as Cordova actually went through on goal and actually round JT Marcinkowski. But the problem is, he basically did an Erling Haaland and Jeremy Ebobisse at the same time as he actually missed an absolute sitter from empty net. And actually, he didn't really miss that one on target, but it was actually an amazing block from Nathan to clear that one off the line. And that's why I said it's a combination of Haaland and Ebobisse, because if you watch that Community Shield game between Man City versus Liverpool, Erling Haaland had a golden opportunity to give Man City a goal where he had an empty net to shoot, and the quality that Haaland has, you would think that he put that one in, but he puts that one over. And then also with Ebobisse, in that game against Houston, he had an empty net to shoot, but somehow was blocked off the line by Parker. And in this case, it's Nathan, the one that is in the Tim Parker role, just somehow blocking this one off the line. And somehow this game remained tied at 1 apiece. Though Kikanovic did blast one high from close range in the 52nd minute. And then in the 60th minute, Savarino flashed one wide in the near post. Again, just giving way too many space to Jefferson Savarino in this game by this Quakes defense. And it almost cost them again in that moment. But there was no doubt that both of these teams was getting chances and was pushing for the lead. And it turns out the Quakes would get that lead, as in the 63rd minute, Jeremy Ebobisse would score from Espinoza to give the Quakes a 2-1 lead, but this was an absolute gift from RSL. And for Zach McMath, yeah, this was not a great moment. I mean, as good as Zach McMath has done for RSL this season, this is definitely one that he does not want to look back, as he just simply gives the ball right to Espinoza on the goal kick. And yeah, the Quakes were off to the races, and they capitalized on that mistake, and they were able to lead 2-1 in that one. But at the same time, I also really wrote, the Quakes can't let their guards down, because RSL have shown the ability to come back this season, and they look to understand that message, because they try to make it 3-1 as Kikanovic tried to tap one in from close, but he missed that one wide. And I also thought that for the most part, the Quakes actually defended pretty well in the latter part of this game. I mean, they really limited the chances that RSL had to get the equalizer, and limited any opportunity for RSL to really get themselves a chance to build the momentum. But that all changed in the latter part of this game, and that all changed mainly because of the fact that, one of the things that I haven't mentioned a lot this season is that Alex Cavallo, he not only has made some really strange tactical decision at times, especially in the latter part of the game, but also have made some boneheaded decision. And there's been times where he has made some boneheaded decision, like putting Cal once again in this game, even though Cal has not had a great last couple of games. And most importantly, putting Shea Salinas on there. And as much as Shea Salinas is definitely a Quakes legend alongside with Wando, I can tell he's getting to that part where I wouldn't be surprised in a couple of years he could hang up his boots, because he was just a liability out there, especially in the defensive department. And it was not a big surprise that RSL basically took advantage of it, because they started to push for the equalizer. Rubin had a chance to get that, but he struck one right to Marcinkowski. And the Quakes, they were looking to hold on in the latter part of this game. And one thing we've seen this week is that when teams are trying to hold on to a fringe lead, whether they're playing at home or on the road, that does not end up well. And it's not a big surprise that it happened again in this one. In the 5th minute of stoppage time, again, throughout this whole game, the Quakes were letting Jefferson Savarino have so much space to operate, and was just leaving him open in the box. And I don't think it should be to anyone's surprise that eventually he punished the Quakes by that is he scored here from Miram and Julio. I mean, you could say that maybe this goal probably should have been on JT Marcinkowski, where I think that's also one of the things that a lot of people are frustrated about Marcinkowski, which is he's been kind of an inconsistent goalkeeper. Like there's times where he can make some incredible save, and then there's time he let that one, the one that Jefferson Savarino scored, where Savarino actually didn't connect this one well, but Marcinkowski just kind of flicked at it and basically didn't do a good enough job to push that one away. But you also got to blame the defense on that. I mean, first of all, how in the world was Justin Miram was able to turn Paul Marie, which Paul Marie, I think it is pretty clear that not only he's not a great defender, but there's just multiple times that he just gets exposed in the defensive end, and multiple times he's basically at fault of the goal as he just got completely turned by Miram there and just almost completely getting skin alive on that flank. And then just, again, nobody marking Savarino in the box. That's been the story throughout the game, and eventually he punished the Quakes because of that. And yeah, in a game where the Quakes looked like they were on the jaws of victory. I mean, we talk about teams getting a draw or getting a win and getting that from the jars of defeat. This feels like more like the Quakes were about to get a win or the Quakes got a loss in this one from the jars of getting a win in this one. And yeah, I mean, this is a game that I already didn't had a lot of hopes about this team for the rest of the season, and that, you know, I've already lost hope of this team ever since Almeida, of course, was fired. But I think this might be one of the last one, with the way that, again, I just don't know how in the world is this team going to recover, especially with the way that this defense is single-handedly the reason why this team is not a playoff team. Like, if this defense actually can be competitive, or at least be in the middle of the pack, this team should be a playoff team. But the fact that it's not, and that it's the worst defense in the league, and the fact that the Quakes haven't had any signing to address that, just to shows you that this is pretty much a lost season. And, you know, I said it so many times before, and I hate the fact that I have to repeat myself again. The fact that, yeah, this team is not going to make the playoffs with these kind of performance. But the shots in this one, 14 shots per the 12 that RSL had, 4 shots on goal per the 6 that RSL had, 4 shots off target per the 7 that the Quakes had, 3 shots that was blocked per the 2 that RSL had, and possession-wise, 67% possession compared to 38% possession that RSL had. But, you know, in an RSL perspective, they'll definitely gladly take this point. And again, it just shows that this is a team that they know how to score late goals, and they have that pedigree of scoring late goals. I mean, after all, their anthem is basically the belief anthem, and that this team always will believe that they can get themselves a resort and get themselves a late goal to get a big resort on the road, and this was definitely one of those. But that being said, I am now going to switch board and look at the last 2 games that happened in terms of match week number 23. So I'm actually going to talk about the last game of match week number 23, because like I said, the game between Charlotte versus Columbus weren't able to finish, but I also did say earlier that I'll at least talk about what happened in the early part of this game before the game, of course, was abandoned because of the weather delay and also the lightning that was going on in the Charlotte area. But before we talk about that, we're going to talk about DC versus Orlando City. And while I did mention that this was the debut of Wayne Rooney as a head coach in the preview, I forgot to mention the fact that in Wayne Rooney head coach debut, he's going to be facing Orlando City. And you know that when Wayne Rooney is involved with DC and that they're playing against Orlando City, you know something magical is going to happen. Like, literally, Wayne Rooney just owned Orlando City, and it feels like even as a head coach, he decided to continue that kind of narrative with the way that DC somehow in some way were able to not only come back from this game despite being dominated for a majority of this one, but really still win in this one against Orlando City. Because early on in the first half, just 9 minutes into this game, Orlando would take the lead. It's Junior Urso, the one that gives the lead for Orlando City, but in many ways, you know, this was just some poor giveaway from DC. I mean, it was also a lovely chip from Urso, but you got to question the DC defense giving the ball away in their own half, and also question Romo with the way that, you know, he basically was caught into 2 minds in terms of whether or not should he come off the line and whether or not should he just kind of go back, and he kind of came halfway there, and Urso realized that, chipped it over his head, and yeah, Orlando was up 1-0 in this one, and I thought it was a strong start for Orlando too, because they really dictate the play for the first 10 minutes, and that would kind of be the case for most part of the remaining up this one. But despite the dominance, the shots were only 2-1 through 18 minutes in this one. It would soon to be 3-1 as Pato puts it high in the near post. And then in the 27th minute, Pato actually had an empty net to shoot at, but he missed that one high. And missed chances would become a big story, and also the ultimate downfall for Orlando City, because yeah, there was a lot of opportunity for Orlando to make it 2-0 in this one. But at the same time, I also thought that the early narrative in this game is not only the fact that DC were not defending well, but their goalkeeper Romo was just making some boneheaded decision in regards of coming off his lines. And again, here, he basically come off his lines or in the last play that I mentioned, he came off his lines where he didn't need to do, and he kind of got caught out in no man's land, and that Pato had a chance to score from an empty net, but weren't able to put that one on target. Then Pereira mishits a volley that goes high before Michel also had an empty net, and this one was even worse. I mean, this one was an empty net sitter, but somehow he missed that one high. And I would also say that Benji Michel basically had an Erling Haaland moment there. I mean, that was just one that I don't know how in the world he wasn't able to make it 2-0. And again, the shots were 8-1 in favor of Orlando, and I was also going to write, but you know, they're only up 1-0, and will these missed chances kind of come back to haunt them? But I also was kind of critical of DC United, because where in the world was the fight and intensity for their new head coach? Like I've talked about in the preview, you know, I feel like DC could be in for a strong game because, you know, it's a new head coach in Wayne Rooney, and you know these players want to fight for him and want to earn their keeps of or earn their manager through their trust of being a regular starter. But that doesn't seem like that was the case in the first half. Like, it was just a flat performance by DC throughout the first half, and it would continue as after we head to halftime with Orlando leading 1-0. In the second half, Orlando once again on the front foot as DC was just continue to be flat, no fight, no intensity whatsoever. Though in the 60th minute, they did have their best chance of the game as Galese actually robbed Fuentes from point-blank range, and that on the second effort, Hopkins actually goes wide. But that actually turns out to be a huge turning point in this game, because this is a moment where we finally started to see DC not only woke up, but really gain a foothold into this game. And this also is where I wrote, will Orlando fall in the same trap as Nashville did against Vancouver? Where, remember I talked about that Nashville versus Whitecaps game? Nashville were dominating the first 2/3 of the game, and then they let Vancouver back into it, and yeah, they basically paid the price for doing so. And it feels like Orlando was doing it again. You know, they were dominant up to that point, but then DC had a big opportunity to equalize, and even though it was a big save from Galese to prevent that, you can definitely sense that they were feeling like, hey, you know, maybe we can start to use that as a momentum shift. And it did, because in the 70th minute, Hopkins did drive one wide before Fuentes had a shot that was deflected and it goes wide. But there was no doubt that DC have took control of this game. They were pressing for the equalizer, and Orlando was on the ropes. Like they looked like they were going with row heath mode, or as I would say, probably Pereira road mode, because, you know, Oscar Pereira this season, one of the things that has to frustrate Orlando fans is that how many times he has just simply let this team just bunker for the remaining of the game after going up 1-0, and it feels like it's that time again, because they weren't attacking whatsoever. They were just sitting deep and hope to get a 1-0 win on the road. But like I said many times so far in the review this week, when you try to hold on for a 1-0 lead and trying to bunker, it usually doesn't end well. And it didn't end well in this game too, because in the first minute of stoppage time, DC finally got the equalizer, and it's Chris Durkin getting his first goal for DC United ever since he coming back from this team, from Kamara and Smith, to tie the game up at 1 apiece. And just as you thought that was pretty much it, and that DC has completed a dramatic way to get themselves the equalizer, they weren't done, because again, there's just something about Wayne Rooney being in this game that you know there's going to be some magical moment, and it happened in the 4th minute of stoppage time. as it's the Taxi Funtas scoring here from Smith and Rodriguez to make it 2-1 in favor of DC. And yeah, what a game this turns out to be for DC, and what a comeback this turns out to be. But it's the Wayne Rooney magic. I mean, again, it's just he can be a coach, or he could be a player, or he can even be an executive in that DC reign, and somehow DC was somehow pull an amazing win out of them against Orlando. In fact, it feels like, you know, they really love to play against Orlando with the way that they seems to dominate this meeting in the last couple of games, and had some of the most dramatic moment happen in this game, which a lot of that courtesy of Wayne Rooney in this one. But either way, in the end, DC were able to steal a 2-1 win against Orlando, and the shots in this one, 8 shots for the 15 that Orlando City has. Both teams had 4 shots on goal, 8 shots off target for the 1 that DC had. Both teams had 3 shots on his block, and possession-wise, 56% possession compared to 44% possession that Orlando City has in this game. And, you know, for Orlando, I'm just going to reiterate what I said about Nashville against Vancouver. You simply cannot just decided to bunker for the remaining of the game and expect the fact that you can just hold on to a 1-0 lead, and also not expect it to have poor finishing throughout the game and able to escape that with a 1-0 victory. But that being said, moving on into the last game I'm going to talk about, and like I said throughout this video, I've been talking about this game being a pretty historic game, with this being the first time I ever did a review on this channel where the game actually didn't finish. And in this game against Charlotte versus Columbus, not only the fact that it didn't finish, but you could maybe argue it shouldn't have started in the first place, because the kickoff not only was delayed for lightning, but the game didn't restart until 10:19. And even then, when I look at the weather forecast, there was a lot of lightning in the Charlotte area. Even going into the overnight hour, there was still lightning around the area. And I just thought, is this going to be one of those games that we've seen before, where, you know, I've seen before where games has been called off because of too much lightning and weather delay, and it feels like this was going to be one of them. But to my biggest surprise, they did restart this game at 10:19, and as the game restarted, I thought Columbus were the one that were the more lively side, as they were on the front foot, and I thought Charlotte was just leaving tons of space in the midfield for Columbus to exploit. Zarian did have a chance in the 10th minute, but he had a deflected shot that goes wide. Before on the other end, McNeil actually had the first opportunity for Charlotte, but he hits one right to Rome. But then in the 17th minute, as I mentioned before, this is when the game basically gone back to a weather delay, and little do we know that eventually this game was abandoned, and that, yeah, this game, of course, was never finished. And, you know, I'm also kind of surprised the fact that they didn't decide to continue the next day, because, you know, I've already seen this season where there has been a game that's been abandoned because of lightning. I mean, remember that game between Minnesota versus Colorado in the U.S. Open Cup, where that game played for 17 minutes, and then there was a long weather delay, and then they postponed it to the very next day, and the very next day that's how the resort is. I thought they could have done the same thing in this one between Charlotte versus Columbus, because especially now, what do you do in terms of rescheduling both of these teams, and the fact that, you know, in terms of the logistic wise, it kind of doesn't make sense, the fact that you have to ask both of these teams, and especially in Columbus cases, have to fly back to Charlotte and finish the last 73 minutes of this game. So yeah, I feel like they should have continued this game on Sunday, but, you know, it will be interesting to see when exactly that they are going to continue this game. And it also could be interesting to see in terms of how things could change, because, you know, if this game is going to play in later of the season, who knows the form of both of these teams is going to be. But at least up to this point, there is no score, so basically it kind of almost like it's a new game, and that, you know, it's just now just going to be like a 73-minute game instead of the usual 90. But yeah, again, we'll see when exactly this game, of course, would be resumed, and that it will also be a kind of interesting preview by talking about how this game is going to happen, even though this game has already started, and we're just going to pick up around the 18th minute mark once this game, of course, resume, because, you know, in MLS rule, once the game of course started, and if the game does get abandoned, they'll basically reschedule and basically start from the exact same time when the game was abandoned. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the review of all 13 of these games, and the 6 games that that I talked about in part 2 of this review of match week number 23. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of all of these games, and later today I'm going to also have to do the preview of the Tuesday action, because we do have 2 games that's going to be happening on Tuesday, and I have to do the preview of that. But I also will have to do the preview of the Wednesday action, as I believe there's going to be 6 games in total. We have 2 on Tuesday and then 4 on Wednesday. So, you know, no lack of MLS action, at least up into the All-Star game that's going to be happening very, very soon, and I'm definitely very excited for that, because I'm actually going to be going to Minneapolis and going to Allianz Field to attend that All-Star game. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.